have a lot going on. I'm writing, blogging, I have this YouTube channel, I try and get sewing done sometimes, and I have a day job. None of these things provide me with an income, or at least not an income I can actually live off of on my own, but before we get to the plan of how I would like to change that, let's go back a bit. How did I get here anyway? Origins, the point or place where something begins, arises, or is derived. In the beginning, there were my parents, and then there was me. I had a really happy childhood. It was super lovely, really, and my parents have always encouraged my artistic tendencies. I even wrote a few silly stories for a while when I was around 12 and played around on RPG forums. It was the early days of the internet, you guys. But my real passion as a kid was for watercolor painting. I wanted to be an artist, that's what I would say when anyone asked. In high school, I kept painting, but I also fell in love with fashion. I discovered the world of Vogue, and I wanted in. So I graduated and I went to school for fashion design. More importantly, I studied abroad in London, England, which remains my favorite city. Then I studied for a few weeks in Paris, and then I got home and finished my degree. So here we are on the timeline. I graduated and then, wait. Now what? I didn't know. By the time I graduated university, I didn't really want to work in fashion anymore. I loved sewing and clothing, but I didn't love the industry. I had spent some time in a museum, but with an apparel design degree instead of a degree in art history, what were the odds a museum would want to hire me? Low. They were low. So after a summer of existential dread and lots of crying, I found a local part-time job so I could at least buy my own chocolate to dull the pain of staring deep into the void. Then they asked me to stay on after the holidays, and I said no. After all, hey, this wasn't my dream. I was going to go work with historic costume in a museum. Sure, kid. But I did get an internship at the Denver Art Museum somehow, and it was amazing, but then at the end of it, even though they had a part-time entry-level position available, they wanted a master's degree. And I did not have one of those. In fact, the biggest lesson of that internship was no master's degree, no museum job. So back to square one again, kid. No museum work. What's your next plan? I'd gotten a part-time job working retail at Banana Republic. The joys of retail, right? I had started my blog back in 2013 too, but like anything, it takes a while to get good at even blogging, and in 2015, I was definitely not good at it. I was trying to build my blog, which is cute, but I wasn't getting anywhere, and retail was way too much dealing with people for not enough chocolate money. So I quit retail and I got a new job sewing. It was a very small company, still in a basement, but I got to sew all day and there were no customers, so it was an improvement. I was still blogging, and by this point I wanted to get serious about fiction writing again too, but the plot of the novel I'd been working on for years was as stuck in a rut as I was. That next summer I was promoted to a full-time management position. The company had moved out of the basement by then, and suddenly I had several colleagues to manage. The position came with a raise, and with that in full-time, finally making a living wage, I could dream about actually moving out and starting off on my own for real. But the position was stressful in all the wrong ways, the company unstable, and that next winter I had enough of the BS and decided to leave. Square one again, sensing a theme? What to do now? The blog had grown and then it had shrunk. Instagram had taken over and I hadn't managed to make the switch. So I spent all of my savings staying afloat, and for 5 months I had no job but to write and to blog, and even to start on YouTube, but none of that could pay the student loan bills. So it was back to work, of course. I found a new part-time job at another small business, and I'm still there today. It's a really nice job, but it isn't my dream. My dreams? I keep on chasing, but it's like they're always out of reach. I am so very, incredibly lucky to have the supportive and understanding family that I do, and the rest of the privilege, of course, as well. I'm still figuring it out, and they let me live while I do, and while I've been writing, and I've finished a book, even publishing that is not my only dream. I have too many, perhaps. Maybe that is the problem. No, the problem is time. I just haven't enough of it. And when I see how much I have already wasted, well, never mind. Let's not talk about that. Objectives, a thing aimed at or sought, a goal. So what exactly do I do with all my time? Well, starting we have, of course, the day job. Then there's my blog, which takes up quite a lot of time, interestingly enough. And then writing, I try and do that as often as I can, often sacrificing other things to work on that. Oh, and then YouTube, like YouTube, for example. So there's videos and editing and all that stuff. So there's those four. Those are the four main things I'm doing. And then, sewing. It's kind of almost a blogging adjacent activity because that's where I show off my sewing or my finished projects. Oh, and then we have friend time with friends. That's a thing. Oh, health, like working out or getting physically fit. Oh, family time. Family time, that's important. Gotta have that. It looks like we're all out of room, sadly, for this last one here. We'll just kind of stick it under sewing, since I also don't really have time for that much these days either. So it's already too full, as we can see possibly here. The balance is somewhere a little bit off, and I guess we'll just get rid of this one. Yeah, we don't really need that, do we? This one, we don't. I mean, who needs to be social? Health, working out is awful anyway. That's an easy one to cut. I don't want to have to deal with that. Then let's try and eliminate something up here that we can just. We don't really. There's got to be something we don't have. How about? Oh, I know which one I'd. Oh yeah. I kind of wish I could just. Well, yeah. No, I can't. Can't exactly do that yet, so, all right, with a little more room here, maybe we can fit some other stuff in, right? If only it were just that easy. Of course, the thing I need the most right now that I can't really seem to achieve is this last one here, financial independence. Sadly, the rest of these squares can't seem to provide that for me just yet. Even combining them all together. Of course, up here on the blog, we want to do better content. That seems to be what had grown the blog in the past, and I do like to spend time on better articles. Over here on writing, we need to publish something, preferably the book I wrote this year. We'll see. Over here on YouTube, we're going to grow the community, and I'd like to, grow the channel. And down here on sewing, I would like to create sewing patterns for sale, and then possibly one day do a reproduction clothing line. Of course, that's very pie in the sky. I know which one of these I don't really have time for if I'm working very hard on the rest. I'd like the rest of these to sort of replace this one, but of course that's not actually possible yet, so we'll just add that back on there. There's not really time for all of these things. I have to put my little red circles on a few at any one time, and each day I kind of have to allocate a little bit of time for each of these things and hopefully balance it correctly, which I just, perhaps haven't been doing well. I haven't been prioritizing well which of these is the one I need to focus on at any one time, because my interest is split between all of these things, and of course that doesn't actually tend to lead me towards that yellow box in the bottom any closer, at least, but that's what this is going to be about, the journey to having all of these lovely squares and building the life that I would like to live while also being able to be financially independent. We'll find out. All right, guys, we'll find out. Pirates of the Caribbean. So, just a few more notes here at the end of this second side hustling video here. Just, going over it all, it seems like I usually have at least two things going on for me. Usually I have ideas and at least some time, because my day job, of course, is a part-time job, which means the rest of my time I can devote to these other many side hustles I have going on, or I'm trying to grow into a thing. So at least I have those two things going for me, and that means the most important thing I need to work on is balance and prioritization. So figuring out which of my side hustles I need to be prioritizing to facilitate having more time to work on the others. So that means, of course, if I can get one of my side hustles to be profitable, then I cannot have to work an additional part-time job, which would mean that I could have more time to work on that and the other side hustles and get my dreams going in a much better direction, of course, as opposed to just spinning around and not particularly going anywhere, even if I'm getting creative fulfillment out of them no matter what, which is, of course, very nice and cannot be discounted. Now, I have notes here, of course, I'm tired. So prioritization is very important. We'll have to work on that a little bit here. Now, I have some potential questions that, maybe we'll address another time, and including why do I feel entitled to live my dream life instead of just getting a normal job, which is fair, if a bit mean-spirited. And then, of course, we have here, is capitalism bad? Which, again, fair. A fair question. This question here says, why does culture in the United States value nose to the grindstone, real work over creative work. And I don't know, but we sure do. We sure do. Over here we have, if a person is to be valued by their economic contributions alone, isn't that going to collapse when the robots replace many, if not most, of the jobs? And again, yes, that's just one of the reasons why we shouldn't do that. Just one of the many reasons we shouldn't be placing a person's value in their contributions. This seems a little bit silly. I don't really. And then this last one here is, in that eventual dystopian future staring us in the self-driving drone delivery algorithmically generated face, is just one of many reasons I'd like to spend my working life doing work I love instead of a job I hate. Does that make me a monster? Well, let's find out next time here on